Elderly man abandoned by family walks in the rain until a man changes his fate. William Patterson dragged his wet feet through Long Beach City Park on a rainy Thursday morning, his 78 years weighing like lead on his hunched shoulders. 3 months earlier, he had been left at Sunshine Senior Living by his own children, who claimed they couldn't care for him after the first signs of mental confusion appeared. His old pocket watch ticked steadily against his thin chest as he sheltered under a tree, watching raindrops slide down the leaves. Then, a young man of about 30 came running toward him, holding an umbrella. "Sir, you're getting soaked," the young man called, extending the umbrella over William. "No need, son. I'm used to it," the elderly man murmured without looking up. "But you'll get sick like this. Come, let's sit on that covered bench." The young man helped William walk to the bench. There was something familiar about his face that made the old man's heart race for no apparent reason. "My name is Nathan Wilson," the young man said, sitting beside him. "You remind me a lot of someone very important." William eyed him warily. Every day at the nursing home, someone tried to talk to him, but no one had ever stirred this strange sense of recognition. "I don't know anyone anymore, young man. My family left me, and that's that. Now the only one I have is Mrs. Margaret, who visits sometimes." "Mrs. Margaret?" Nathan narrowed his eyes. "Who is she?" "A lady who visits several of us at the home. She says she lost her husband and wants to keep company with those who have no one. She's the only one who cares whether I'm alive or not." Nathan fell silent for a moment, studying the old man's face. There were small scars on William's hands, just like the ones he remembered seeing on someone very dear to him in childhood. "Mr. William, may I ask how long you've been at the home?" 3 months and 14 days, he answered promptly. "I've counted every day since my daughter Linda left me there. She said I was getting too forgetful and that she couldn't take care of me." "Your daughter Linda?" Nathan's heart raced. "And your other children?" "What other children?" "I only have Linda. She used to visit once a month, but it's been a while since she came." The young man pulled out his phone with trembling hands and showed William an old photo. The elderly man's eyes widened as he saw his own younger self beside a woman and 3 small children. "This is you, isn't it?" Nathan asked, his voice choked. William took the phone with shaky hands, bringing the screen closer to his tired eyes. The image showed him about 40 years younger, embracing a blonde woman and 3 children. One of the boys, around 8 years old, grinned with a missing tooth. I don't remember this photo. Who are these people?" "This boy right here," Nathan pointed to the smiling child, "is me, and you're my grandfather." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, William abruptly handed back the phone and clumsily rose from the bench. No, you're mistaken. I don't have any grandchildren, never did. My Linda never married, never gave me grandchildren." "Grandpa William, it's me, Nathan. You used to teach me how to make paper airplanes, remember? We played in the backyard of the house on Palm Street." The old man shook his head violently, pressing his hands to his temples. "Stop it. I never lived on any Palm Street. I always lived in a small apartment with Linda before going to the home." Nathan stood as well, gently blocking William's path. "Grandpa, please listen to me. You disappeared 15 years ago. The whole family searched for you. We filed a police report, hired detectives. Everyone thought that something bad had happened." 15 years? William laughed bitterly. "Son, you've got it all wrong. I was with my daughter just 3 months ago. We lived together, she took care of me. She only took me to the senior home when I started forgetting things." "What kind of things did you forget?" William hesitated, his gaze lost in the rain that kept falling. "Sometimes I'd forget where I put my keys, or the name of the street we lived on. Once I called Linda Elizabeth. I don't know where that name came from." "Elizabeth was my grandmother's name, your wife. She passed away 20 years ago." "My wife?" William touched his pocket watch. "No, this watch here was a wedding gift from my Elizabeth. but she's alive. She just went on a trip and hasn't come back yet." Nathan felt his eyes fill with tears. His grandfather truly didn't remember anything, or someone had made him forget. "Grandpa, let me take you for a nice hot coffee. It's chilly with this rain." William looked at the young man for a long moment. There was something in his eyes that felt sincere, a kindness he hadn't seen in a long time. "All right, but I need to be back at the senior home by 5 in the afternoon, or Nurse Joan will worry." "Of course, I promise you'll be back on time." The two walked to a small cafe on the corner of the park. Nathan chose a table in the back, away from the crowd, and ordered 2 coffees with milk and sugar bread. "Tell me about Linda," Nathan said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Oh, my Linda's a good girl. Works hard, so she can't visit me often. She told me I was starting to mix things up, that sometimes I'd talk about people who didn't exist, people like you in the photo." "What else did she say?" "That it was better for me to stay somewhere with trained people to take care of me. At first I was angry, cried a lot, but then I understood she was right. I really have been confused lately." Nathan watched his grandfather sip his coffee with shaky hands. There were details he recognized, the way William held the cup, how he stroked his beard when thinking, the way he wiped his lips with the napkin. "Mr. William, can I see your watch?" The old man hesitated for a moment, then took out the golden pocket watch from his coat. Nathan examined it carefully. On the back was an inscription, "To William, eternal love. Elizabeth, 03-15-1970. This date is my grandparents' wedding day." "How could you know that?" William took the watch back, tucking it away quickly. "Because I was at your 40th wedding anniversary party. I was 10. You gave a moving speech about how you met Grandma Elizabeth at a midsummer festival." William turned pale. For a few seconds his eyes went blank, as if reaching for a distant memory. Midsummer. There were colorful flags, and a girl in a blue dress dancing the quadrille. "That's right. Grandma always said you tripped trying to dance with her and almost knocked over the bonfire." A single tear rolled down William's wrinkled face. "Why can't I remember properly? Why is everything jumbled in my head?" Nathan reached across the table, gently touching his grandfather's hand. "Maybe it's because of what happened. Grandpa, let me take you to my house. There are some things there that might help you remember." "I don't know. Nurse Joan told me not to go out with strangers." "I'm not a stranger, Grandpa. I'm your grandson, and we'll be back right on time, I promise." William studied Nathan's face for a long moment. There was something in those eyes that calmed him, a familiarity he couldn't explain. "All right, but only for a few hours." Nathan's house was in the Riverside neighborhood, a modern 2-story home with a well-kept garden. When they entered, a woman around 50 years old was cleaning the living room. Upon seeing William, she dropped her cleaning cloth and brought her hands to her mouth. "Oh my heavens, Mr. William! Mrs. Catherine, you know my grandfather?" Nathan asked, surprised. "Know him? I worked for this family for 15 years. I took care of young Nathan when he was little. Mr. William, where have you been all this time?" William took a few steps back, confused and agitated. "I don't know you. I've never seen you in my life. How can you not know me?" Catherine stepped closer, tears in her eyes. "I was the one who made that white bean soup you loved so much, and the cheese bread for your afternoon snack." "White bean soup?" William murmured, touching his forehead. "I sometimes dream of a soup like that, but I don't know where the dream comes from." Catherine looked at Nathan with deep sorrow. "Nathan, this man isn't well. It seems someone has messed with his mind." "Mrs. Catherine, could you show us those old photos in the attic?" "Of course, dear. I'll get them right now." While Catherine went upstairs, Nathan guided William to the living room. The walls were decorated with family photos over the years. William stopped in front of a large photo on the main wall. "This house," he murmured, touching the frame. "I've been here before. This was your house, Grandpa. We lived here together. You, me, my dad Richard, my Aunt Patricia, and my Uncle Michael." "Richard, Patricia, Michael." William repeated the names as if trying to decipher them. "These names sometimes echo in my head, but Linda said it was just my imagination." Catherine came downstairs carrying a shoebox full of photographs. She spread them on the coffee table, and William slowly approached. One photo showed a younger William in a suit standing next to a sign that read, "Patterson & Sons Construction, founded in 1978. "You owned a construction company, one of the biggest in Wilson," Catherine explained. "You built half the downtown buildings. I worked in construction." William picked up the photo with trembling hands. "But Linda always said I was retired, that I never worked in construction." Nathan and Catherine exchanged worried glances. "Grandpa, do you remember anything about your children? About Richard, Patricia, and Michael?" William sank heavily onto the couch, staring at the scattered photos. One image in particular caught his eye. Himself hugging 3 adults in front of a large building. "These faces," he touched the photo gently. "I dream of them sometimes, but they're bad dreams. They're yelling at me, saying horrible things." "What kind of things, Grandpa?" "That I was losing my mind, that I didn't know what I was doing anymore, that I'd end up losing everything and leaving the family in ruin." William began to tremble. "They wanted me to sign papers, so many papers, but I didn't understand what was written." Catherine sat beside him, holding his hand. "Mr. William, your children were worried because you started getting confused with the company finances, but you were clear-headed about most things. Only the big numbers tripped you up." "And what happened after?" "One day, you just disappeared. You left in the morning for your walk in Long Beach City Park and never came back. Your children turned the city upside down looking for you. They thought you'd gotten lost because of your confusion." Nathan knelt before his grandfather. "Grandpa, where were you all these 15 years? How did you end up with that Linda woman?" William massaged his temples, trying to gather his thoughts. I remember being very confused, lost. There was so much noise in my head, so many voices screaming. Then a kind woman found me in a park, said I was talking to myself, crying. She took me to her home." "Was this woman Linda?" "Yes. She took care of me, gave me food, a place to sleep. Said I was very sick, that I'd lost my memory because of a brain problem. That my family didn't exist, that they were just hallucinations." Catherine and Nathan exchanged glances, beginning to understand the magnitude of what had happened. "And all these years, you never questioned what she told you?" "At first I did. I talked about those faces in my dreams, about the company, this house, but she always said it was just my sick mind playing tricks. Over time, I stopped asking. It was easier to believe her." "Grandpa, I'm sorry to ask this, but did Linda ask for anything in return for taking care of you?" William lowered his head, ashamed. "She said I had some money saved, a retirement benefit, made me sign papers so she could collect it in my name, said it was to cover my expenses." Nathan felt his blood boil. Someone had clearly taken advantage of his grandfather's confused state. "Mr. William," Catherine said gently, "do you remember where you kept important documents? Deeds, wills, things like that?" "Documents?" William closed his eyes, concentrating. "There was a safe behind the living room painting, but that must be another one of my fantasies." Nathan rushed to the wall where an old seascape painting hung. He moved it aside and found a wall safe. "Grandpa, do you remember the combination?" 150370, William murmured. "The date I married Elizabeth." The safe opened with a soft click. Inside were documents, jewelry, and a sealed letter labeled "To my children, open only in case of emergency." Nathan took the letter with trembling hands and opened it. It was his grandfather's handwriting, but from 15 years ago, when his penmanship was still steady. "If you're reading this, something has happened to me. I want you to know that despite my recent confusion with numbers, I still know who I am and who you are. I've always loved you, even when we fought about the company. If I disappear, look for me. Don't believe anyone who says I've become incompetent. My mind still works fine, I just need help with some things. The real will is at the bank, safe deposit box 247. The key is with attorney Howard Mitchell. Take care of each other. Your loving father." William listened as Nathan read the letter aloud and began weeping uncontrollably. "I wrote that. I remember writing that. I was afraid you'd think I'd completely lost my mind. Grandpa, what do you remember about the day you disappeared? William closed his eyes, concentrating hard. I went for a walk because I was upset. You'd argued with me the day before about signing a power of attorney. I didn't want to sign because I didn't understand everything it said, so I went to the park to think. And then, I was sitting on a bench when I started feeling dizzy. Really dizzy, like I'd taken too much medicine. Then everything got mixed up. The next thing I remember is waking up in Linda's house, her saying she found me talking to myself on the street. Nathan and Catherine exchanged looks. The story was getting more suspicious by the minute. Grandpa, were you taking any medicine back then? Just for high blood pressure, but that day... William stopped, his eyes widening. That day Linda had given me some tea to calm my nerves. She said it was chamomile, but it had a strange taste. Wait a minute. Nathan stood up abruptly. Which Linda? The lady you met later, or... No. The Linda who gave me the tea was someone else. A nurse who was taking care of me in the last few months before I disappeared. My children hired her because I was getting forgetful. The truth began to take shape in Nathan's mind in a terrifying way. Grandpa, this nurse Linda and the Linda who took care of you for 15 years, are they the same person? William froze, his eyes fixed on emptiness. Slowly, the puzzle pieces started fitting together in his confused mind. My God, he murmured. It's the same voice, the same perfume. How did I not notice before? Nathan felt a burning anger growing in his chest. Someone had deliberately kidnapped his grandfather, keeping him confused and isolated for 15 years. Mrs. Catherine, do you remember who hired this nurse? It was your father, Mr. Nathan. He was worried because your grandfather was forgetting important appointments, repeating the same questions. He thought he needed special care. And where is my father now? Mr. Nathan. Catherine hesitated. Your father, your aunt, and your uncle. They inherited everything when your grandfather was declared missing 10 years ago. They split the company, sold the properties. They're all doing very well. The information hit Nathan like a bomb. His own parents and uncles had benefited from his grandfather's disappearance. Did they know he was alive? I can't say for sure, my dear, but there was something odd about how they stopped searching after a few months, as if they already knew they wouldn't find him. William stood up unsteadily, leaning on the arm of the sofa. My own children, he murmured. They did this to me. Nathan stepped closer to his grandfather, holding him by the shoulders. Grandpa, we don't know for sure what happened. It might have just been the nurse acting alone. We'll find out the truth, I promise. But why would she do this? What did she gain by keeping me trapped for 15 years? You said you signed papers for her to receive your pension, remember? She was probably collecting your benefits all this time. William sank back onto the sofa, the weight of the revelation too much to bear. 15 years of my life, 15 years stolen, and I didn't even know. Catherine sat beside him, rubbing his back comfortingly. Mr. Patterson, what matters now is making up for lost time. Your grandson is here, the truth is coming out. This isn't the end, it's the start of a new chapter. But what if my children really planned all this? What if they don't want me back? Nathan knelt in front of his grandfather again. Grandpa, no matter what happens, you have me now. I won't let anyone hurt you again. And we'll get to the bottom of this, no matter what. How? This Linda must have destroyed all the evidence. And who's going to believe me? A confused old man who vanished for 15 years. We have the letter you wrote, we have the documents from the safe, and I'm sure there's more proof. We'll hire a lawyer. We'll investigate everything properly. William looked at his grandson with a mix of hope and fear in his eyes. What if Linda tries to stop me? She always said if I tried to break free from the story she made up, something bad would happen. What kind of bad thing? That she'd tell everyone I was dangerous, that I had violent outbursts, that they'd lock me in a psychiatric hospital and throw away the key. Nathan's stomach turned. The manipulation had gone much deeper than he'd imagined. Grandpa, that will never happen. You're not dangerous. You don't have violent outbursts. She just said that to scare you from seeking help. But sometimes I really do get confused. I forget where I am. I don't recognize people. That's normal for someone who's been through trauma like you have. With proper medical help and being close to your real family, you'll improve a lot. Catherine stood up and went to the kitchen, returning with an old photo album. Mr. William, would you like to see some photos of when Nathan was little? Maybe it'll help bring back some good memories. William took the album carefully as if it were made of crystal. The first photo showed a boy around 5 years old, sitting on the shoulders of a smiling man. This boy, William touched the photo gently, looks like the little one from my dreams, the one who loved playing with paper airplanes. That's me, Grandpa. You taught me how to make planes that flew all over the house. Grandma Elizabeth always complained we made a mess of the living room. Elizabeth? William closed his eyes. She used to make cornbread that melted in your mouth, and she'd sing while cooking, a song about a thrush. The thrush in its cage made a little hole, flew, 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 and left its owner all alone. Nathan sang softly. That song. William opened his eyes, moved. How do you know that song? Because Grandma always sang it to me too. She said it was Grandpa's favorite. William turned a few more pages of the album. There were photos of birthdays, Christmas, trips to the beach. In all of them, he appeared smiling, surrounded by family. I was happy, he murmured. In these photos, I look truly happy. You were, Grandpa. We were all so happy together. Then why did my children let it end? Why did they let me disappear? Nathan hesitated. That was the question that haunted him most too. Maybe they didn't let it happen, Grandpa. Maybe they were deceived too, or maybe... He stopped, not wanting to hurt his grandfather further. Go ahead, son. At this point, I need the truth, no matter how painful. Maybe they thought it'd be easier to move on without having to care for you. People sometimes make bad choices when money's involved. William closed the album slowly, deep sadness washing over his face. 15 years. I lost 15 years of watching you grow up. I missed the chance to know other grandchildren, to see weddings, graduations. But there's still time, Grandpa. I'm not married yet. I don't have kids. Once this is all settled, you'll be there for every important moment in my life from now on. Do you really believe there's still time for me? Of course. You're 78, but you're strong, sharp. You could have 20, 30 more years ahead. Enough time to recover so much of what you lost. William looked out the window, watching the rain still falling outside. I need to go back to the home. If I don't show up on time, they'll worry. And Linda? She always checks to make sure I'm there. What do you mean she checks? She calls to see if I'm okay, if I haven't tried to run away. Says it's because she cares. But now, I understand it's to keep watch over me. Nathan checked his watch. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. Grandpa, what if we go together to talk to the director of Sunshine Senior Living, explain the situation? What if she doesn't believe us? What if she tells Linda? We'll bring all the proof. The documents, the photos, the letter you wrote. There's no way she won't understand what's happening. William was silent for a few minutes, clearly wrestling with himself. All right, he said finally. But if it goes wrong, if Linda finds out... It won't, Grandpa. And even if she does, you're not alone anymore. You have me and Mrs. Catherine. We won't let anyone hurt you again. The drive to Sunshine Senior Living was tense. William alternated between moments of determination and anxiety attacks, fearing Linda's reaction when she found out he had gone out with strangers. Sunshine Senior Living was an old but well-maintained building surrounded by a small yet tended garden. At the reception, a middle-aged woman greeted them with a professional smile. "Mr. Patterson, how was your outing?" she asked, but then noticed Nathan. "And who are you, sir?" "My name is Nathan Wilson. I'm Mr. Patterson's grandson, and I need to speak with the director of the facility." "It's urgent." "Grandson?" The receptionist looked confused. "But Mr. Patterson, didn't you say you only had a daughter?" "It's complicated," William murmured. "May I speak with Ms. Vera?" A few minutes later, they were seated in the director's office, a woman around 60 with graying hair and a kind expression. Mr. Patterson, you seem upset. Did something happen? Asked Ms. Vera. Nathan took a deep breath and began telling the whole story. He showed the photos, the documents, and explained the disappearance from 15 years ago. The director listened carefully, occasionally asking questions. This explains a lot, she finally said. Mr. Patterson, ever since you arrived here, you've always seemed, how should I put it, disconnected, as if the story you told about your life didn't quite add up. What do you mean? Nathan asked. He spoke of a daughter named Linda, but sometimes he mentioned other names. Richard, Patricia, Michael. He said they were hallucinations, but he spoke of them so fondly that they didn't seem made up. And there were very specific details about a company, a big house. I always said it was just confusion in my head, William murmured. But there was something else strange, Ms. Vera continued. This Linda never visited in person. She always called to check on him but never came to see him. She said she lived far away, that she had health problems. I thought it was odd for a daughter to never visit her father. And how did Mr. Patterson end up here? Nathan asked. Linda called saying she couldn't take care of him anymore, that he was getting too confused and aggressive. She paid 3 months in advance and said she'd come later to sort out the paperwork, but she never showed up. What about my grandfather's documents? She mailed them, ID, social security card, retirement proof. Everything seemed in order, so we accepted Mr. Patterson. Nathan examined the documents the director showed him. They were all real, but something was off about the address listed as his previous residence. Grandpa, do you know this Admiral Way? William looked at the paper and shook his head. I've never heard of that street. Linda always said we lived on Flower Street. Ms. Vera, could you give us this Linda's phone number? Of course. She wrote it down on a slip of paper. But I should warn you, she was always very controlling. She called twice a week to ask for details about Mr. Patterson's routine. If he was eating well, taking his meds, if he'd tried to leave alone. She asked if he'd tried to leave alone? Yes. She said he had a tendency to wander, that it was dangerous to let him out on his own. That's why we never allowed him to leave unaccompanied. Nathan felt his anger rise again. Linda had even manipulated the facility's staff to keep William a prisoner. Ms. Vera, based on what you've seen today, does Mr. Patterson seem dangerous or prone to wandering? Not at all. He's one of the gentlest residents we have, never caused any trouble. And today, coming back with you, he seems more alert and happy than I've ever seen him since he arrived. William looked at Nathan with tears in his eyes. Do you really think I can get better? Of course, Grandpa. You just need time and care to recover from what they put you through. Ms. Vera watched them thoughtfully. Mr. Nathan, what do you plan to do now? First, we'll look for a lawyer to understand my grandfather's legal rights. Then, we'll investigate this Linda and find out exactly what she did during those 15 years. And what about Mr. William staying here at the senior home? Nathan looked at his grandfather, who seemed anxious for the answer. If he wants to stay, he can stay temporarily. But now that we know the truth, he's not alone anymore. He has family who cares about him. Can I visit your house sometimes? William asked timidly. Of course, Grandpa. In fact, how about staying over tonight? Mrs. Catherine can make that white bean soup you used to love. White bean soup? William smiled for the first time in a long while. It's been so long since I've had a real homemade soup. Mrs. Vera stood up, extending her hand to Nathan. Mr. Nathan, I'm so glad Mr. William has reunited with his family. I'll update his file with everything we discovered today. If you need anything, you can count on me. Thank you, Mrs. Vera. You've been very understanding. It's my job to care for our residents, and now I understand that caring for Mr. William means helping him reconnect with his true family. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Leaving the senior home, William seemed like a different person. He walked taller, his eyes brighter. In the car, he looked out the window with curiosity, as if seeing the world for the first time in years. This street, he pointed as they passed a busy avenue. I remember this street. There was a bakery on the corner where I used to buy sweet bread on Sundays. The bakery is still there, Grandpa, Mr. Joseph's. He always asks about the old customers who disappeared. Mr. Joseph, William smiled. He made those coconut donuts that Elizabeth loved. Nathan felt his heart warm seeing his grandfather reclaiming small memories. Each recollection was like a puzzle piece falling into place. Back at the house, Catherine had already prepared the white bean soup, and the aroma filled William with nostalgia. He ate slowly, savoring every spoonful as if it were a treasure. "Mrs. Catherine, you're an angel," he said, finishing every last bite. "Oh, Mr. William, it's a joy to cook for you again. Please make yourself at home. This has always been your home." After dinner, Nathan showed his grandfather the room he used to stay in as a child when he slept over at his grandparents' house. The bed was made with fresh sheets, and clean towels were laid out in the bathroom. "Can I really sleep here?" William asked, carefully touching the quilt. "Of course, Grandpa. This room holds your memories too. Want to see?" Nathan opened a drawer in the dresser and pulled out a small box. Inside were yellowed paper airplanes aged by time. "You kept my airplanes." William picked one up gently. "I remember. We used to have contests to see which one flew the farthest. And you always won because you folded the wings in a special way." William tried folding a new airplane with a piece of paper Nathan gave him. His shaky hands struggled with the folds, but slowly, muscle memory returned. "I did it!" he exclaimed when the plane was finished. "I still remember how." They played for a few minutes, flying the planes around the room. William laughed like a child, a sound Nathan hadn't heard in 15 years. When it was time for bed, William hesitated at the bedroom door. "What if I have nightmares? Sometimes I wake up screaming, hearing angry voices. What if I disturb you?" "Grandpa, if you have nightmares, just call me. My room is right next door." "And nightmares are normal after everything you've been through. They'll get better with time." "Are you sure I'm not a burden? Linda always said I was too much trouble, that I weighed people down." Nathan sat on the edge of the bed next to his grandfather. "Grandpa, you were never a burden. Not when I was a kid and not now. Family takes care of each other. That's how it works. And you took care of me when I was little. Now it's my turn to take care of you." William held his grandson's hand, his eyes shining with emotion. "I don't know if I deserve all this kindness. Of course you do. You're my grandpa, a good man who was tricked by bad people. This isn't about deserving anything." That night, William slept deeply for the first time in months. There were no nightmares of angry voices or threats. Instead, he dreamed of little paper airplanes flying through a sunlit garden while a woman in a blue dress sang about a mockingbird. The next morning, Nathan woke to the smell of coffee and tapioca. He went downstairs and found William in the kitchen, helping Catherine with breakfast. "Good morning, Grandpa. How do you sleep?" "Better than I have in years, my boy. And look." He proudly showed a perfectly round tapioca in the pan. "I still remember how to make it." "Mr. William woke up early and wanted to help," Catherine explained, smiling. "He said he missed cooking." Over breakfast, Nathan shared his plans for the next few days. "Grandpa, I'm going to see a lawyer this morning, and I'll hire a private investigator to find out more about this Linda." "A private investigator?" William looked worried. "Won't that be dangerous?" "No, Grandpa. It's just to uncover the truth, where she really lives, how long she's been collecting your benefits if anyone else is involved. What if she finds out you're investigating? Even if she does, she can't do anything. You're under the family's protection now, and we have proof of everything she did." William stirred his coffee thoughtfully. "There's something I remembered last night. Linda always had visits from a man. He never spoke to me, but I'd hear them whispering. Sometimes I heard my name." "What kind of man?" "Older, well-dressed. Looked like he had money. Once I went downstairs for water late at night and heard him say something like, 'The old man can't remember anything, and the kids can't find out.'" Nathan nearly choked on his coffee. "Grandpa, you're sure you heard that?" "Positive. At the time I thought I was imagining things like Linda always said, but now it all makes sense. That man could be working with her. Or maybe—" Nathan trailed off, a terrible possibility forming in his mind. "Maybe what?" William asked. "Maybe he's someone from our own family, someone who knew where you were all along." A heavy silence fell over the kitchen. William paled, and Catherine stopped stirring sugar into her coffee. "You think my own children?" "I don't want to believe it, Grandpa, but we have to consider every possibility." "Mr. Nathan," Catherine said carefully, "may I suggest something?" "Of course, Mrs. Catherine." "Why not start by talking to the family lawyer, Mr. Howard Mitchell? If anyone knows about anything suspicious with your grandfather's assets, it's him." "Good idea. Grandpa, do you remember Dr. Howard?" "Howard," William concentrated. "Tall man, salt and pepper mustache, always wore navy suits, handled the company's paperwork for years." "That's him, I'll call him now." Howard Mitchell's office was in downtown Wilson, in an old but elegant building. When Nathan explained the situation over the phone, the lawyer fell silent for a long moment. "Nathan, is that really you?" he finally asked. "My God, I thought I'd never hear your voice again. And your grandfather, is he really alive?" "He is, Dr. Howard, and he urgently needs your help. Come immediately. We have much to discuss." The office looked exactly as William remembered. Shelves filled with law books, an old dark wooden desk, leather armchairs worn by time. Dr. Howard, now nearly 80, embraced William with tears in his eyes. "William, my old friend, where have you been all this time?" "It's a long story, Howard, a terrible one." The lawyer listened carefully as Nathan recounted everything they had discovered. Occasionally he took notes, but mostly he shook his head in disbelief. "This explains so much," he said when Nathan finished. "William, do you remember the last time we spoke?" "Not very well. Everything was so confused back then. You came here 2 weeks before you disappeared. You were worried because your sons were pressuring you to sign a general power of attorney. You didn't want to sign." "A general power of attorney?" "Yes, a document that would give them complete control over all your assets. You said you no longer trusted them, that they cared more about your money than your well-being." William brought his hands to his head, trying to remember. "They got angry when I refused to sign. Very angry. Especially Richard. He even came to me afterward saying you were growing senile and that it was dangerous to leave you in charge of the company." "And what did you say?" "That you were perfectly lucid, just cautious. That it was understandable for you to hesitate before signing such a broad document." Nathan leaned forward in his chair. "Dr. Howard, what happened after my grandfather disappeared?" The lawyer sighed deeply. "Your parents and uncles came to see me a week later. They said you had vanished, that you were probably lost somewhere due to mental confusion. They wanted me to help them obtain a declaration of absence." "And did you help?" "At first I resisted. I said it was too soon, that they should keep searching. But they insisted they had hired detectives, that they had done everything possible." "When did they get the declaration of absence?" 5 years after the disappearance, and 10 years later they obtained a presumed death certificate, which gave them rights to the inheritance." William grew increasingly pale. "They inherited everything. The company, the properties, the bank accounts. Everything was divided among the 3 sons as the will dictated." "But Dr. Howard," Nathan said, "if my grandfather was alive, how did they get the declaration of absence?" "To obtain it, they had to prove they had made every possible effort to find the person. They provided evidence, newspaper ads, detective contracts, police reports." "Did it all seem legitimate?" "At the time, yes. Even I was convinced William had gotten lost and perhaps suffered an accident. It was impossible to imagine he was being held captive." William stood from the chair and walked to the window. "My own sons. They knew where I was. They had to know." "William, we can't be certain of that yet," the lawyer said. "It's possible Nurse Linda acted alone, at least at first." "But Dr. Howard," Nathan argued, "my grandfather overheard conversations between Linda and an older man about keeping the secret. That man could have been my father or one of my uncles." "It could. Or it could have been someone else. Maybe Linda's accomplice, someone helping her manage William's benefits." The lawyer returned to his desk and opened a locked drawer. "William, do you remember leaving a key with me for the bank safe deposit box?" "Bank safe deposit box? Yes, vaguely. You said that if anything happened to you, I should open the safe only in Nathan's presence." None of your children should have access until Nathan came of age. Nathan perked up. And what's in the safe? I don't know. I never opened it. You were very specific. Only in Nathan's presence and only if you disappeared or died. Can we go there now? Of course, the bank is nearby. The First National Bank on Ocean Avenue was an imposing building from the 1940s. The manager, Mr. Augustus, had known Dr. Howard for decades and attended to them personally. "Mr. William," he exclaimed upon seeing him, "what a joy to see you again. We all thought, well, that something terrible had happened. It did, Mr. Augustus. But now I'm here to clear everything up." In the bank's basement, in front of safe 247, William hesitated for a moment. "What if I don't remember the combination?" "We can try some possibilities," Nathan said. "Important dates, birthdays." 15/03/70, William said suddenly. "The date of my wedding to Grandma Elizabeth." "That's it, Grandpa." The safe opened, revealing sealed envelopes, jewelry, deeds, and a document that made Nathan's eyes widen. "Grandpa, you made a secret will." "Secret will?" William took the document with trembling hands. Dr. Howard examined the paper carefully. "William, this will revoke the previous one. According to this document, if you disappeared under suspicious circumstances, your entire inheritance was to be held in a fund managed by me until the truth was uncovered." "But my children already inherited everything based on the old will," Nathan said. "Yes, but if we prove William was alive when they received the inheritance, everything changes. They'll have to return the assets." William sat in a chair the manager brought, clearly emotional. "So I planned this. I knew something might happen." "Grandpa, there's more here. Look at this envelope." Nathan opened an envelope marked, "For Nathan, open only in case of family emergency." Inside was a letter and several photos. "My dear grandson, if you're reading this letter, something serious has happened to me. I want you to know you've always been the most special grandson to me, the one I trust the most. Your parents and uncles are blinded by greed, but you've always had a pure heart. The photos enclosed show secret meetings I photographed between your parents and a nurse named Linda Miller. I don't know what they were planning, but I suspect they wanted to declare me incompetent to take control of my assets. If anything happens to me, find this woman. She's the key to uncovering the truth. I love you very much, my boy. Take care. Grandpa William." The silence in the vault room was absolute. Nathan looked at the photos, his parents and uncles talking to a middle-aged woman in different places, a cafe, a park, the door of a house. "Grandpa, you knew. You already knew they were planning something." William looked at the photos with tears streaming down his face. I remember following them once when they left together, saying they were handling some company issues, but they went to meet her. And you took photos?" "I had a small camera Elizabeth gave me as a gift. I took it secretly because I suspected they were lying to me." Dr. Howard examined the photos with a magnifying glass. "William, these photos are dated. They were taken 3 months before your disappearance." "So they planned everything in advance," Nathan murmured, feeling his world collapse. "My own parents?" William moved closer to his grandson, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Nathan, I know this is painful to discover, but you're not to blame for what they did." "But how could they? How could they do this to their own father?" "Greed makes people do terrible things, my boy, even to their own family." Dr. Howard placed all the documents in a folder. "William, with this evidence, we can not only prove you were alive when your children received the inheritance, but also that they conspired in your disappearance. This is very serious." "What does that mean?" asked Nathan. "It means they'll have to return all the assets they wrongfully received. And depending on how we present the case, they could face criminal charges for fraud and unlawful imprisonment." William shook his head sadly. "I don't want to press criminal charges against my children. I've suffered enough. I don't want to cause more pain." "But Grandpa, they did this knowingly. They stole 15 years of your life." "I know, my boy, but they're still my children. I want my assets back. I want the truth to come out, but I don't want to see them in prison." Dr. Howard nodded understandingly. "It's your decision, William. We can focus solely on the civil aspect. recovering your assets and seeking damages. What about Linda? Asked Nathan. Oh, with her it's different. She's not family. What she did was kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, embezzlement. She'll have to answer for all of it. Leaving the bank, William seemed like a different man again. Not just because he had regained his memories, but because now he had purpose, a mission. Nathan, I want you to take me to speak with my children. Grandpa, are you sure? It could be very painful. I'm sure. They need to look me in the eye and explain why they did this to me. Then let's go to my father's house first. He lives about 20 minutes from here. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Richard Thompson's house was a modern mansion in the city's upscale neighborhood. When Nathan rang the doorbell, it was his mother, Lucy, who answered. "Nathan, what a surprise!" she exclaimed, but then she saw William and turned completely pale. My God." "Hello, Lucy," William said calmly. "Surprised to see me alive?" Lucy staggered, gripping the doorframe. From inside the house came Richard's voice. "Who is it, honey?" "Richard," she called in a shaky voice, "you need to come here. Now." Richard appeared at the door and froze when he saw his father. For a moment that felt like an eternity. The two men stared at each other in silence. "Dad," Richard murmured finally. "How? Where have you been?" "I think you know exactly where I've been, my son." "I don't understand." "You don't?" Nathan stepped in, showing the photos. "Then maybe these will refresh your memory." Richard looked at the photos and his face crumpled. Lucy moved closer to see and began to cry. "Richard, what are these photos? Who is this woman?" "Dad, I can explain." Then explain," William said, stepping into the house uninvited. "Explain to your son why you conspired to have me kidnapped. Explain why you spent 15 years enjoying my inheritance while I rotted in the hands of a criminal." Richard sank into an armchair, his face in his hands. "It wasn't like that. It wasn't planned this way." "Then what was it like?" Nathan was visibly furious. At first it was just to get him to sign the power of attorney. Linda was a nurse. She said she could give him some medication to make Dad more cooperative. More cooperative? William sat on the couch, looking at his son with a mix of sorrow and anger. "You were refusing to sign anything. The company was in trouble. We needed to make quick decisions. We thought if you were a little confused for a few days turned into 15 years. I swear it wasn't supposed to be like this." Richard stood up, desperate. "Linda said she would give you mild medication, that you'd be confused for a week at most, just enough to sign the papers. And then? Then she said you had a bad reaction to the medication, that your mind became too confused, that it would be dangerous to bring you back in that state." Lucy timidly approached William. "Father-in-law, I swear I didn't know any of this. Richard told me you had disappeared, that you might be lost because of your mental confusion." "And you believed him?" William looked at his daughter-in-law with disappointment. I wanted to believe. It was easier than imagining my husband could be capable of kidnapping his own father," Nathan finished, disgust in his voice. Richard knelt before William. "Dad, I know I have no excuse. What I did was terrible, but I never wanted you to suffer so much. I never thought it would last this long. But you did nothing to bring me back. I tried. So many times I wanted to tell the truth, to bring you home. But Linda said you were too unwell, that any sudden change could make you worse. And of course you believed her because it was convenient, wasn't it?" Nathan grew angrier. "It was easier to believe Grandpa was being cared for than to face what you'd done. Nathan, please nothing. You stole 15 years of his life. 15 years of my life too, because I grew up thinking my grandfather was dead." William raised his hand, asking for silence. "Richard, look me in the eyes and answer one question. How many times did you visit this Linda to see how I was doing?" Richard lowered his head, ashamed. "None. She said it was better not to see you, that it might confuse you even more. 15 years, Richard. 15 years without a single visit from my own son. Dad, You what? Felt remorse? Cried from missing me? Or were you too busy enjoying my money? The room fell heavy with silence. Lucy wept quietly. Richard looked broken, and Nathan struggled to control his anger. Where are Patricia and Michael? William finally asked. Patricia lives in Los Angeles now, Michael in San Diego. They also didn't know you were alive. Or they knew and chose to pretend they didn't, Nathan said bitterly. No, Nathan, I swear they didn't know. When Linda told me Dad was too unwell to return, I decided not to tell them. I thought it would be easier for everyone if we believed he had truly disappeared. William stood and walked to the window. So you made that decision alone? Decided on your own that it was better for me to be lost in the world than to return to my family? Dad, I was desperate. The company was failing. We had huge debts. We thought with the power of attorney we could save everything. And did you? William turned to face him. Does the company still exist? Richard shook his head. We sold it 10 years ago. With the money from the sale, we paid off the debts and had plenty left to split among the three of us. My company, the one I built with 40 years of work. Dad, it was going under no matter what. At least this way we saved something. For yourselves. You saved something for yourselves. Nathan could no longer stay silent. Grandpa, let's go. There's nothing left to say here. Wait, Nathan. Richard stood. Dad, what do you want me to do? How can I make this right? William slowly turned to his son. Do you really want to know? Yes. I'll do anything. First, I want you to take me to this Linda. Today. Now. Dad, I don't know where she is. After we got the inheritance declaration, we lost contact with her. What do you mean, lost contact? She changed her number, left no address. It's like she vanished. Nathan narrowed his eyes. How convenient. Right after you no longer needed her services. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? William Patterson was growing impatient. She took care of me for 15 years, and once you got what you wanted, she just vanished. Richard hesitated before answering. Actually, when the inheritance came through, she asked for a sum. Said she'd cared for you for so long and deserved compensation. How much? $500,000. And you paid her. Patricia, Michael, and I split it. Each paid a share. William sank back onto the couch as if he'd been punched. So she was paid to keep me prisoner by you, my own children. Dad, it wasn't exactly like that. Then what was it? Explain to me how it wasn't exactly like that. Richard began to cry. She said if we didn't pay, she'd tell the police everything. That we'd be arrested for unlawful imprisonment and fraud. And she was right, Nathan said. You should have been arrested. Nathan, please try to understand. Understand what? That you're criminals. That you kidnapped my grandfather and even paid to keep him locked away. Lucy knelt beside William's armchair. Father-in-law, I know I have no right to ask for anything, but please don't destroy my family. My children aren't to blame for what Richard did. William looked at his daughter-in-law, a woman he'd known for over 20 years. Lucy, do you have young children? Yes. Amanda is 12. Peter is 9. And you'd do anything to protect them, wouldn't you? Of course. Then imagine how I feel knowing my own son chose to keep me hidden rather than face the consequences of his actions. Lucy had no reply. William stood again. Richard, you said you'd do anything to make this right. I'll give you a chance to prove it. What do you want me to do? First, help me find Linda. I don't believe she just disappeared. You must have some clue where she is. I really don't know, Dad. After we paid her, we never heard from her again. Then we'll start with the last address you have. And I want you to call Patricia and Michael. I need to speak with them too. Now? Now. Richard picked up the phone with trembling hands. The first call was to Patricia. Patricia, it's me, Richard. I need you to come to the house. It's urgent. No, I can't explain over the phone. It's about Dad. Patricia, Dad is alive. A long silence followed on the other end. I'll explain everything when you get here. Bring Michael with you. I know he's working, but this is more important than any job. Richard hung up and looked at his father. They'll be here in about 3 hours. Patricia will pick Michael up on the way. Good. In the meantime, let's track down Linda. Dad, I really don't know where she is. Richard, William stepped closer, locking eyes with his son. Stop lying to me. After 15 years of lies, you owe me at least the truth. Richard sighed deeply. Fine. I know an address, but it's her sister's, not hers directly. Then let's go. Linda's sister lived in a middle-class neighborhood in the north part of town. It was a modest but well-kept house with a small front garden. When they rang the bell, a woman who resembled Linda answered. Seeing Richard, she tried to shut the door quickly, but Nathan stopped her. Please, Mom, we need to speak with Linda. It's very important. I don't know any Linda, she lied, but her nervous eyes gave her away. William stepped forward. Ma'am, my name is William Patterson. Your sister took care of me for 15 years. I just want to talk to her. The woman looked at William with guilt and fear. Mr. William, my God, how are you? I'm all right now, but I need to talk to Linda to clarify some things. She's not here. Where is she? The woman hesitated, looking nervously at Richard. She went away, left town after receiving a sum of money. A sum of money? She said she had cared for an elderly man for a long time and that his family compensated her for her work. Nathan stepped forward. Mom, Linda did something very serious. She kept my grandfather prisoner for 15 years, away from his family. If you know where she is. I can't. The woman began to cry. If I tell you, she'll say I was involved too. Were you? William asked gently. Not directly, but I knew something was off. He always seemed confused when she talked about his family, like he didn't remember properly, and she never let anyone speak to him alone. Did you try to help? Once, I tried asking him about his family when Linda went out to buy medicine, but he got very upset, said he couldn't talk about it because Linda told him it was dangerous. Richard approached the woman. Ma'am, please. My father lost 15 years of his life because of what your sister did. We just want to talk to her, to clarify the situation. She's in Miami Beach, bought a house there with the money she received, said she was starting a new life. William felt his heart race. Do you have the address? I do, but promise me you won't hurt her. No matter what she did wrong, she's still my sister. Ma'am, William said with dignity, I didn't come here for revenge. I came to uncover the truth and reclaim my life. The woman went inside and returned with a piece of paper bearing an address in Miami Beach. She lives alone in a house in the South Beach neighborhood, but I doubt she'll want to talk to you. We'll handle that, Nathan said, tucking the paper away. Back at Richard's house, they found Patricia and Michael already waiting in the living room. When they saw William, their reactions were identical. First shock, then tears. Dad! Patricia ran to hug him. My God, where were you? We looked for you everywhere. You looked? William gently pulled back from the embrace. Or did you know exactly where I was? Michael stepped closer, confused. Dad, what are you talking about? We didn't know anything. Richard told us you'd disappeared and that you'd probably gotten lost because of your confusion. William looked at Richard, who stood pale in the corner of the room. Richard didn't tell you the truth? What truth? Patricia asked. Nathan showed the photos to his aunt and uncle. Patricia covered her mouth in horror. Michael examined the images with growing outrage. Richard, Michael turned to his brother. What are these photos? I can explain. Then explain. Patricia was visibly shaken. Explain why you're in photos with a stranger 3 months before Dad disappeared. Richard told the whole story again. With every detail, Patricia and Michael grew more shocked and furious. You did this alone? Michael asked, disbelieving. You decided on your own to kidnap our father? It wasn't kidnapping. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It wasn't supposed to be, but it was. Patricia was crying with anger. Because of you, we spent 15 years thinking our father was dead. Because of you, I raised my children without them knowing their grandfather. Patricia, I thought I was protecting you. Protecting us from what? The truth. The consequences of your actions. William sat between Patricia and Michael, taking their hands. My children, I want you to know I don't blame you for anything. I know you had no idea what Richard had done. Dad, how can you forgive us so easily? Patricia sobbed. We took advantage of your inheritance, lived well with your money while you were suffering, because you didn't know. And because despite everything, you're still my children. Richard is too, no matter how terrible the things he did. Howard knelt before his father. Dad, what can we do to make this right? How can we recover the lost time? First, I want you to help me find this Linda. I have her address in Miami Beach. We'll go with you, Patricia said immediately. And then? William thought for a moment. Then, I want us to talk about how we'll handle the inheritance and how we'll move forward as a family. Dad, Howard said, you don't need to worry about the inheritance. We'll return everything we received unfairly. And so will I, Patricia added. I don't want anything that isn't rightfully mine. Richard, who had stayed silent in the corner of the room, stepped closer to the group. Dad, I'll return everything too. I know it doesn't make up for what I did, but it's the least I can do. William looked at his 3 children. The inheritance isn't the most important thing right now. What matters is rebuilding our relationship as a family. But it'll take time. It'll require effort from all of us. We're willing, Dad, Patricia said. At least I am. Me too, Howard confirmed. Everyone turned to Richard, who hesitated for a moment. I know it'll be hard for you to forgive me, and I know it'll be hard for Dad too, but I'll do everything in my power to earn a second chance. Nathan, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. The second chance will depend on your actions from now on. Words are easy. I want to see deeds. Nathan's right, William said. We'll go to Miami Beach tomorrow, all together. We'll face this Linda and close this chapter of our lives. That night, William slept at Nathan's house again, but this time he wasn't alone. Patricia insisted on staying too in the guest room. Howard also wanted to stay, setting up a mattress in the living room. Richard was the only one who went back to his own home, saying he needed to explain everything to Lucy and prepare the kids to meet their grandfather. During dinner, which Catherine prepared for the whole family, William shared stories of when his children were little. With each memory, the tears lessened and the smiles grew. Dad, remember when Patricia tried to cut her own hair and ended up with that awful tuft? Howard asked, laughing. And what about you gluing your hand to your school desk and having to go to the hospital? Patricia shot back. Or Richard breaking the neighbor's window playing ball and losing his allowance for a month to pay for the repair? William added, smiling. For a few moments it was as if the 15 lost years had never happened, as if they were the close-knit family they once were. But when bedtime came, reality returned. William needed anxiety medication. Patricia cried softly in her room. Howard stayed up late, scrolling through old photos on his phone. The next morning, the 4 men of the family, William, Nathan, Howard, and Richard, set off for Miami Beach. Patricia wanted to go too, but decided to stay to care for the kids and explain the situation to them calmly. The car ride took about 3 hours. Along the way, William shared more details about the 15 years he spent with Linda. Each story was a stab to his children's hearts. She told me you didn't want anything to do with me because I was going crazy, that it was a relief for you to be rid of me. Dad, that was never true, Howard said, who was driving. We loved you. I dreamed about you almost every night for the first few years. She knew that. That's why she used that lie to hurt me, to make me believe it wasn't worth trying to come back to you. Richard, sitting in the front seat, turned to his father. Dad, how did you manage to stay sane for so long? A few things kept me strong. Memories of Nathan making paper airplanes for me, the songs your mother used to sing, the smell of Catherine's soup, little things Linda couldn't erase from my mind. And what else helped you? Hope. No matter how hard she tried to convince me otherwise, a part of me always knew you loved me. That one day, the truth would come out. Nathan was moved as he listened to his grandfather. Grandpa, you're much stronger than you think. Strength comes from love, my boy. The love I felt for you kept me alive all these years. When they arrived in Miami Beach, they easily found Linda's house in the South Beach neighborhood. It was a new, clearly expensive home with a well-kept garden and 2 cars in the garage. She lived well with the money they made by keeping me prisoner, William remarked bitterly. When they rang the doorbell, a maid answered. "Good morning, we'd like to speak with Mrs. Linda Miller. She's not receiving visitors. Can I take a message?" Nathan stepped forward. "Please tell her Mr. William Patterson is here. She'll want to talk to us." The maid hesitated but went inside. A few minutes later, Linda appeared at the door. When she saw William, she turned completely pale. "William, what, Linda? How did I find out where you live? How did I escape the prison you created for me?" Linda glared at Richard. "You brought him here. We had an agreement." "The agreement has changed," Richard said firmly. "My father has the right to know the truth." "What truth?" "I took care of him for 15 years. I gave him affection, attention, a home." "A home?" William laughed bitterly. "You kept me prisoner, Linda. You filled me with drugs to keep me confused, made up lies about my family. I saved your life. When I found you, you were lost, talking to yourself on the street. No one cared about you." Nathan stepped forward, furious. "Stop lying. We have proof you conspired with my father to kidnap my grandfather. We have photos, documents, witnesses." Linda realized she was cornered. Her shoulders slumped, and she sank into a chair on the porch. "You don't understand, and at first it was only supposed to be for a few days. Richard asked me to give William some medication to make him more cooperative. And then I saw how desperate you all were to get rid of him, how much easier it was for everyone to pretend he had disappeared." "That's not true," said Michael. "We searched for our father for years." "You barely looked. Deep down, it was a relief not to have to care for a confused old man." William stood up from the chair he'd been sitting in. "Linda, look me in the eyes and answer. Why did you do this? Why keep up the lie for 15 years? Linda avoided his gaze. "At first it was for the money. Richard paid me well to take care of you temporarily, but then what? Then I got used to it. You were like a father to me. I never had a real family. Taking care of you gave me purpose." "Purpose?" Nathan was incredulous. "You stole 15 years of his life for purpose." "I took good care of him. He never lacked anything. Except freedom," William said sadly. "Except family. Except the chance to live my own life." Linda began to cry. "I knew it was wrong, especially after the first few years, but I didn't know how to stop. How to explain to you that he'd been alive all along." "You could have told the truth at any time," Richard said. "You could have called us, reached out." "And then what? Would you have forgiven me? Understood? Or would you have turned me over to the police?" "Probably the police," Michael admitted. "But at least our father would have come home years ago." Linda wiped away her tears and looked directly at William. "William, I know you hate me, and you have every right to, but I want you to know that I learned to love you like a real father. Taking care of you wasn't just a job. If you really loved me, you would have let me choose to stay with you or return to my family. I was afraid you'd choose your family, and I would have. Any normal person would have." Silence settled on the porch. Linda wept softly. William stared at the horizon, and his 3 sons processed the situation. "Linda," William finally said, "I want you to answer some questions, and this time, only the truth." "All right. Did you really find me lost on the street, or did you go looking for me where Richard told you?" Linda hesitated, then sighed. "Richard told me where you'd be. He gave me an address, the time you usually took walks. Said you'd be confused because of the medication you'd taken." "What medication?" "He said he'd put something in your morning tea, a strong sedative, to make you compliant so you'd sign the papers he wanted." Richard paled. "Linda, you're making this up." "I'm not. You told me yourself. Said you'd crushed an anxiety pill in the tea but gave more than you should have." William turned to Richard with deep disgust. "You drugged me?" "Dad, You drugged me?" William shouted, something he hadn't done in years. "It was just one anxiety pill. It was to keep you calm so we could talk. One pill that left me so confused I couldn't even find my way home." Nathan had to hold his grandfather, who was shaking with rage. "Grandpa, calm down. They're not worth getting upset over." "Not worth it." William pulled away from his grandson's grip. He drugged me. My own son drugged me and handed me over to a stranger." Michael was crying. "Richard, how could you? How could you do this to our father?" "I didn't think about the consequences. It was just for one day, so he'd signed the power of attorney." Linda stood from her chair. "William, may I keep answering your questions?" "Go on," he said, still trembling with anger. "When Richard brought you to me that day, you were truly confused. You talked about paper airplanes, a woman named Elizabeth, about a company. And what did you do? At first, I cared for you as Richard asked. I gave you medicine to keep you confused, waiting for him to come back for you. And did he? He came back a week later, but when he saw how you were, still disoriented, sometimes not even recognizing me, he panicked. What did he say? That he couldn't take you back in that state, that the family would realize something had happened, that it was better for you to stay with me until you improved." William looked at Richard with contempt. "And you agreed to that?" "Dad, I thought it would be temporary." 15 years, Richard. 15 years is temporary to you. It wasn't like that. Linda said you were getting better, that you'd be able to come back soon. "I lied," Linda interrupted. "I told Richard that for the first few months, but then I stopped giving him hope. It was easier for everyone to believe you'd never recover. And my son believed because he wanted to. Yes, and later, when the inheritance proceedings started, Richard asked me to keep you far away. Said if anyone found out you were alive, they'd all go to prison. Nathan could no longer stay silent. So all this time, my father knew exactly where his own father was, and chose to leave him a prisoner to protect himself. Nathan, it wasn't like that." "Then how was it? Explain it to me." Richard had no answer. The truth was exactly that, and everyone knew it. William stepped closer to Linda. "One more question. During these 15 years, did I ever have lucid moments? Moments when I could have gone home? Many, especially after the first 5 years when I stopped giving you the heavy medication. You were fine, lucid, you remembered a lot. And why didn't you let me leave? Because by then, I had already grown attached to you, and because Richard was paying me monthly to keep you with me." "He paid you monthly?" "Yes. Besides your pension, which I received in your name, Richard gave me an extra amount every month." William turned to Richard, who was leaning against the wall, pale as a sheet. "You paid to keep me kidnapped for 15 years? Dad? Answer me." "You paid this woman to keep me prisoner?" Richard lowered his head. "Yes." The silence that followed was deafening. Michael had to sit down. Nathan clenched his fists. William seemed to have aged 10 years in seconds. "How much?" William asked in a low voice. $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month to keep your father missing. $30,000 a year, $450,000 in 15 years. "Dad, I can pay it all back." "Pay it back?" William laughed bitterly. "Do you think money can buy back the 15 years you stole from me?" Richard began to sob uncontrollably. "Dad, I know there's no forgiveness for what I did. I know you'll never forgive me." "You're right, I won't." The words fell like a sentence. Michael approached his father. "Dad, please reconsider. Richard did something terrible, but he's still your son. Michael, do you have children?" "I do." "Could you do to them what Peter did to me?" "Never." "Then you understand why I can't forgive." William turned to Linda. "And you, Linda. 15 years taking care of me. 15 years watching me cry from missing my family. 15 years watching me waste away far from the ones I loved. How could you? I convinced myself I was doing what was best for you, that your family didn't want you anyway, even knowing it wasn't true. Yes, even knowing it wasn't true." William walked to the balcony railing, looking out at the street. 15 years. 15 years of life thrown away. 15 years without watching my grandson grow up, without meeting other grandchildren, without enjoying my old age with dignity. "William," Linda approached timidly, "I know I don't deserve it, but could you forgive me?" William turned to her. "Linda, during these 15 years there were moments when you were kind to me, moments when you seemed to genuinely care. Because of those moments, I might be able to forgive you one day. Thank you. But that doesn't mean I'll forget what you did, and it doesn't mean you won't have to answer legally for your actions. Linda nodded, crying. I understand. William looked at his 3 sons. Let's go. There's nothing left for us here. On the way back to Wilson, the car was plunged into silence. Richard drove with tears streaming down his face. Michael stared out the window, lost in thought. Nathan held his grandfather's hand, offering silent comfort. It was William who broke the silence as they neared the city. Richard, pull over at that gas station. Why, Dad? Because I'm getting out here. Nathan will pick me up. Dad, please. Richard, I need time. I need to process everything I learned today, and I can't do that with you around. Richard stopped the car and William got out. Before closing the door, he looked at his son one last time. Richard, you destroyed our family. I hope the $450,000 were worth it. And he shut the door. Nathan got out too and hugged his grandfather. Grandpa, let's go home. Let's go, my boy. Let's go home. As they waited for the taxi, William looked up at the sky, where a few stars had begun to appear. Nathan, all these years, I dreamed of this moment. The moment when I would discover the truth and return to my family. And now that you have, how do you feel? Sad. Very sad. Discovering that your own son was capable of what Richard did. That hurts more than all the years of captivity. But Grandpa, now you have me, you have Aunt Patricia, you have Uncle Michael, you have Mrs. Catherine. You're not alone anymore. William smiled for the first time all day. You're right, my grandson. And for the first time in 15 years, I can choose who I want to spend my time with, and I choose you. The taxi arrived and they got in. During the ride home, William asked a question that had been on his mind. Nathan, do you think I should press criminal charges against Richard and Linda? Nathan thought carefully before answering. Grandpa, that decision is yours alone, but can I give my opinion? Of course. Linda, yes, she committed several crimes and needs to answer for them. As for my father, I don't know. Part of me wants to see him pay for what he did, but another part thinks he's already lost what mattered most, your love and respect. He's still your father, Nathan, and you're still his father. But that doesn't mean we have to accept the unacceptable. William looked out the taxi window, watching the city where he was born, and raised past before his eyes. Tomorrow, I'll go see Dr. Howard. We'll start the legal process to recover my assets, and we'll see what to do about the criminal aspects. And after that? After that, I'll rebuild my life. At 78, I still have time to be happy. When they arrived home, they found Patricia waiting in the living room with Catherine. When they saw William, they rushed to hug him. Dad, how did it go? Did you talk to Linda? William briefly recounted what had happened. With each detail, Patricia grew more outraged at Richard. Dad, I always knew Richard was ambitious, but I never imagined he was capable of this. None of us did, my dear. And now? What will happen to him? That depends on many things, but one thing I can promise you, our relationship will never be the same. Patricia hugged her father again. Dad, I want you to know that Michael and I will do everything we can to make up for these lost years. You don't have to make up for anything, my dear. You weren't to blame for what happened. But we lost 15 years with you, 15 years of conversations, advice, and love. Then let's make the most of the years ahead. Let's create new memories. That night, for the first time in 15 years, William had dinner surrounded by his real family. Patricia had brought her children, Amanda and Peter, to meet their grandfather. Catherine prepared a special meal. Nathan shared funny stories from his childhood. For a few moments, it was possible to forget all the pain and simply enjoy the reunion. But when it was time to sleep, reality returned. William had nightmares about Richard, dreaming he was drugged again and taken back to captivity. He woke up screaming in the middle of the night, and Nathan had to stay with him until dawn. Grandpa, maybe you should talk to a psychologist to process everything that's happened. You think I need to? I think anyone who went through what you did would need to. There's no shame in asking for help. All right. Tomorrow, after we see Dr. Howard, we'll find a psychologist. The next morning, William woke up more determined. He had made a decision overnight. "Nathan, call Dr. Howard. Tell him I want to press criminal charges against Linda, and I want all the assets that were wrongfully distributed to be recovered." "What about my father?" William took a deep breath. "As for Richard, I'll give him a chance to make amends. If he fully cooperates with the authorities, voluntarily returns everything he wrongfully received, and pays for psychological treatment for me, maybe with a lot of time I'll be able to forgive him." "Are you sure?" "I am. He committed a terrible crime, but he's still my son. And Elizabeth wouldn't want me to live with hatred in my heart." Nathan hugged his grandfather, moved. "Grandpa, you're a much better person than I would be in your situation." "I'm not better, my boy. I'm just tired of suffering. I want to use the time I have left to be happy, not to seek revenge." The months that followed were intense. The legal proceedings moved quickly. Linda was taken into custody, charged with unlawful confinement, kidnapping, embezzlement, and forming a criminal organization. Richard, who initially tried to deny his involvement, ended up confessing everything when confronted with the evidence. Patricia and Michael voluntarily returned all the assets they had received from the inheritance. Richard resisted at first, but gave in when William threatened to press criminal charges as well. The family business couldn't be recovered, as it had been legally sold, but William received compensation equivalent to the current market value of the company, far higher than the price it had been sold for. With the recovered money, William made several important decisions. First, he bought a new house near Nathan's, where he could live independently but still have family support. Second, he set up an assistance fund for abandoned seniors in memory of Elizabeth. Third, he paid for the best medical and psychological treatments for himself. His relationship with Patricia and Michael slowly rebuilt itself. The two took turns visiting their father daily, including him in all family activities. William got to know the grandchildren he had missed seeing grow up and was charmed by each of them. With Richard, things were more complicated. He moved to another city with his family, claiming he couldn't live with the weight of guilt. He sent letters asking for forgiveness, but William wasn't ready to respond yet. "Nathan, sometimes I think about answering Richard's letters," William said during a therapy session. "What's stopping you?" "Fear. Fear that if I forgive him completely, he'll think what he did wasn't that bad." "Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or minimizing what happened," Dr. Marina explained. "Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves to free ourselves from the weight of resentment." "But I'm not there yet. Every time I remember those 15 lost years, the anger comes back." "That's normal. Forgiveness is a process, not a single event. It could take years." Nathan held his grandfather's hand during the session. "Grandpa, don't force yourself to forgive. When the time comes, you'll know." 6 months after reuniting with his family, William was unrecognizable. The hunched, sad man Nathan had met in the park had transformed into an elegant, well-dressed gentleman with bright eyes and straight posture. He had resumed his morning walks in Long Beach City Park, now accompanied by Nathan or other family members. He had joined a local seniors group where he made new friends. And he had started cooking again, a passion Linda had never let him pursue. "You know, Nathan, I discovered something curious about myself," he said during a Sunday lunch. "What's that, Grandpa?" "I'm much stronger than I thought. For 15 years, everyone told me I was fragile, confused, incapable. But now I realize I survived all that and still have the energy to rebuild my life." "You've always been strong, Grandpa. They just never let you see it. And there's something else. I've been thinking about writing a book about my experience." "Really? Really?" "I think my story can help others who have gone through similar situations, and it can warn families about the dangers of greed." "I think it's a great idea. I can help you with the technical part." "I'd love that, my grandson." A year after their reunion, William received an unexpected call. It was Richard. "Dad, please don't hang up. I know I don't deserve it, but I need to talk to you." William hesitated but decided to listen. "What do you want, Richard?" "I want to ask for your forgiveness, not because I expect you to forgive me, but because I need you to know I understand the gravity of what I did." "Go on." "I've started therapy too, and I'm funding a support group for families of seniors. I'm trying to make up for the harm I caused, even if it doesn't undo anything." William was silent for a long moment. "Richard, I appreciate that you're trying to make amends, but I'm still not ready to forgive." "I understand, Dad. I just wanted you to know that not a day goes by without me thinking about what I did to you, and that I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be a better person." "That's good, Richard. For you and your family." "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Are you happy now?" William looked out the window of his new home, watching Nathan playing in the garden with the grandchildren he now knew and loved. "I am, Richard. For the first time in a long time, I'm genuinely happy." "I'm glad to hear that. That's all I ever wanted for you, even though I did everything wrong." "Richard, maybe one day we can talk in person. But not now. I still need more time." "I'll wait, Dad. I'll wait as long as it takes." When he hung up, William felt a pang in his chest. It wasn't exactly forgiveness, but it wasn't the pure anger he'd felt before. "Progress," he murmured to himself. 2 years after the reunion, William published his book, 15 Lost Years, A Story of Betrayal and Rebuilding. The book became a success, not just in sales, but in the impact it had on families across the country. William began giving talks at senior homes, hospitals, and community centers. His story inspired other seniors who felt abandoned and warned families about the importance of caring for the elderly with dignity. "Grandpa, you've become a celebrity," Nathan joked during the book launch. "I didn't want to be a celebrity, son. I just wanted my story to do some good. And it is. Look how many people came today to hear you." The signing session was packed. Seniors, family members, healthcare professionals, all wanted to speak with William. Every story he heard strengthened him further. "Mr. Patterson," said a woman in her 70s, "my daughter wanted to put me in a senior home against my will. After reading your book, I talked to her, and we found a better solution." "That's wonderful, ma'am. That's why I tell my story." "Mr. Patterson," said a middle-aged man, "your book made me realize I was neglecting my father. Now he lives with me and we're happier. That makes me very proud." By the end of the day, as the event wrapped up, William sat in a chair, tired but satisfied. "Nathan, I think I've found my life's purpose." "What's that, Grandpa?" "Helping others avoid what I went through, and helping families understand each other better. You really have a gift for it." "You know what's funny? For 15 years, Linda told me I was useless, just a burden. Now, at 80, I've discovered I can make a difference in people's lives." "You always could, Grandpa. They just wouldn't let you." 3 years after the reunion, William settled into his new routine. He would wake up early, have coffee with Nathan and the family, take walks in the park, work on his second book, receive visits from Patricia and Michael, and end the day reading to his great-grandchildren. It was a simple life, but one full of meaning. One morning, as he walked through the park, the same place where it had all begun, William was approached by a young journalist. "Mr. Patterson, may I ask you a few questions for an article about seniors and family?" "Of course, my dear. How would you define the ideal family?" William thought for a moment, watching the children playing in the square, the elderly couples walking hand in hand, the parents pushing strollers. "The ideal family is one where every member cares for the others, especially the most vulnerable, where love doesn't depend on a person's usefulness, but simply on the fact that they exist and are part of our lives." "And forgiveness? Is it possible to forgive serious family betrayals?" "Forgiveness is possible, but it has to be genuine. It can't be forced or rushed, and it doesn't mean forgetting or pretending nothing happened. It means choosing not to let bitterness control our lives." "Have you completely forgiven your children?" William smiled sadly. "Patricia and Michael, yes, they were victims just like me. Richard, we're still working on that. Some wounds take longer to heal." "What advice would you give to families going through conflicts?" "Talk. Always talk. Don't let pride, money, or anything else become more important than family love. And remember, one day we'll all grow old and vulnerable. How would we want to be treated when it's our turn?" When the journalist left, William continued his walk. He was reflecting on his own words when his phone rang. It was Richard. "Dad, good afternoon. Can we talk?" "What is it, Richard?" "I wanted to let you know I'm coming to Wilson tomorrow. I have some legal matters to settle. I'd really like to see you, even if just for a few minutes." William stopped walking. It had been 3 years since he'd seen Richard in person. "Richard, I'm not sure I'm ready." "Dad, I completely understand if you don't want to see me. I just wanted you to know I'll be in town in case you change your mind." William was silent for a moment. "Where are you staying?" "At the downtown hotel, the same one I always stayed at when I came to work with you." "Richard, how about we meet at the park tomorrow at 4 in the afternoon, on the same bench where Nathan found me 3 years ago?" "Dad, are you sure?" "I am. I think it's time we talked face to face." "Thank you, Dad. Thank you so much." That night, William was restless. Patricia and Michael came over for dinner and noticed his unease. "Dad, you don't have to meet with Richard if you don't want to," Patricia said. "I know, sweetheart, but I need to do this. For myself." "What do you plan to say to him?" Michael asked. "The truth. How I feel, what I think about what he did, and what I expect from him going forward. And if he tries to justify himself again, then I'll listen, and I'll explain why justifications don't matter anymore." Nathan, who had been quiet until then, spoke up. "Grandpa, do you want me to come with you?" "No, son, this conversation needs to be between father and son. But thank you for offering." The next day, William arrived at the park 15 minutes early. He sat on the same bench where Nathan had found him and watched the people passing by. At exactly 4 o'clock, he saw Richard approaching. His son was thinner now, his hair grayer, his expression heavy with guilt and anxiety. "Good afternoon, Dad." "Good afternoon, Richard. Sit down." The two sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the people go by. "Dad, thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "Richard, before you say anything, I need to tell you a few things. It might be painful, but it needs to be said." "I'm ready." William turned to face him directly. "During these 3 years, I've thought a lot about what you did, and I've come to some conclusions." "What are they?" "First, what you did to me was one of the worst betrayals a son could commit against his father. You didn't just betray me, you sold me out, literally." Richard lowered his head, but William continued. "Second, your excuses and justifications don't change what happened. No matter how remorseful you are now, it doesn't give me back those 15 lost years." "I know, Dad." "Third, despite everything, you're still my son. And as much as it hurts to admit, part of me still loves you." Richard looked up, surprised. "Dad." "But love isn't enough, Richard. Trust, once broken the way you broke it, may never fully heal." "I understand. Now tell me, what do you expect from this conversation?" Richard took a deep breath before answering. "I hope to show you that I've become a different person, that I've learned from my mistakes. And even though I know I may never deserve your forgiveness, I'll keep trying to be worthy of it." "And how do you plan to do that?" "Plan to do. I've started volunteering at a senior living home. I take care of people who were abandoned by their families, just like I abandoned you. Every day I spend there is my way of trying to make up for what I did." William was surprised by this. "What's that work like?" "Hard. Really hard. Seeing the sadness in those seniors' eyes constantly reminds me of what I put you through. But it also teaches me about the importance of dignity in old age." "Go on." "I also set up an assistance fund like you did. Every month I use part of my income to help struggling families care for their elderly at home, so they don't have to abandon them." William nodded, impressed. "And your family? How are they handling all this?" "At first it was really hard. Lucy almost left me when she found out everything. The kids were furious when they learned what I'd done to their grandfather. And now? Now we understand this is our reality, that we'll carry the consequences of my actions for the rest of our lives. But we also understand it's made us better people." William was thoughtful for a few minutes. "Richard, can I ask you a tough question?" "Of course." "If you could go back in time, would you do things differently?" Dad, if I could go back, I'd never have put that medicine in your tea. I'd never have called Linda. I'd never have chosen money over family. What if the financial situation were the same? If the company were failing just as badly? Richard thought carefully before answering. I would have talked to you, explained the situation, asked for help, found solutions together, like a family should. Even knowing I might say no? Even then, because respecting your decisions was my duty as your son, not manipulating you to get what I wanted. William nodded slowly. This is the first time I've seen you take full responsibility for your actions without trying to justify yourself, because I've learned that excuses only serve to lessen the guilt of the person who did wrong, and I don't want to lessen my guilt. I want to carry it as a reminder of what I must never do again. The two fell silent for a few minutes. William studied his son, searching for sincerity in his words. Richard, can I tell you what these 3 years have been like for me? Please. At first, I felt pure rage at you, at Linda, even at myself for being so naive. I'd wake up thinking of revenge, go to sleep dreaming of ways to make you suffer like I had. Richard listened silently, tears in his eyes. Then, the anger gave way to sadness. Sadness for the lost years, for the memories we didn't make, for the moments we didn't share. Sadness to discover that the son I raised was capable of betraying me like that. Dad, Let me finish. Finally, the sadness gave way to exhaustion. Exhaustion from carrying so much negativity. That's when I started working on forgiveness with my therapist. And did you manage to forgive me? William looked directly into his son's eyes. I'm on the path, Richard. I'm not completely there yet, but I'm on the path. What can I do to help in this process? Keep being the person you say you've become. Show through actions, not words, that you've truly changed, and be patient. Forgiveness can't be forced or rushed. Richard nodded, emotional. Dad, can I hug you? William hesitated for a moment, then opened his arms. The hug was brief, but meaningful. Richard, I have a proposal. What? How about we take it slow? Some calls, some casual meetings, until we see how we feel about each other. I'd love that, Dad. But with one condition. If at any point I feel you're slipping back into old habits, if I notice any sign of dishonesty or manipulation, I'll walk away for good. I understand and accept. And one more thing. I want to see the volunteer work you're doing. I want to see with my own eyes how you treat the seniors there. Whenever you want, I'd be honored to show you. When they said goodbye, William felt strangely at peace. It wasn't complete relief, nor full forgiveness, but it was a start. At home, the family waited anxiously for news. How did it go, Grandpa? Asked Nathan. It was enlightening. Your father seems to be genuinely trying to make amends. And do you believe him? I want to, but I'll judge by his actions, not his words. Patricia approached her father. Dad, do you think our family will ever be like it was before? William took his daughter's hand. My dear, our family will never be like it was before. What Richard did changed everything forever, but that doesn't mean we can't build something new, something different, but still good. And Richard, will he be part of this new something? Maybe, if he proves he deserves a second chance. In the following months, Richard kept his word. He called his father weekly, always respecting the boundaries set. He sent photos of his volunteer work. He brought the family to visit William, letting him get to know the grandchildren who had grown up without him. The most meaningful moment came when William visited Sunshine Senior Living, where Richard volunteered. Seeing his son tenderly caring for abandoned seniors, witnessing the gratitude in their eyes, was a turning point. Mr. William, said one of the seniors Richard cared for, your son is an angel. He treats us like we're his own family. He talks about you a lot, said another. Says you're the bravest man he knows. Brave? He says you went through very hard times, but still found the strength to rebuild your life and help others. William looked at Richard, who was across the room helping a senior walk. Richard, he called. Yes, Dad. Can we talk outside? In the garden of the senior home, William sat on a bench beside his son. "Richard, seeing you here today, I realized something." "What, Dad?" "I realized you've truly changed, that your remorse is genuine, and that you're trying to make up for the harm you caused in the only way possible, by doing good." Richard began to cry. "Dad, does this mean—" "It means I forgive you, my son." The hug that followed was long, emotional, freeing. Years of pain, guilt, and regret dissolved in that moment. "Dad, I promise I'll never disappoint you again." "Richard, don't make promises you might not be able to keep. Just keep being the person you've become." Can I be part of the family again?" "You've always been part of the family, Richard. What changed was how we related to each other. But yes, I think we can rebuild our relationship." That night, William called Patricia, Michael, and Nathan. "I wanted to tell you all that I forgave Richard today." "How do you feel, Dad?" asked Patricia. "Free. For the first time in years, I feel like I can move forward without carrying the weight of resentment." "And us? How should we handle Richard?" asked Michael. "That's up to each of you. I've forgiven him, but I can't force you to do the same." "Dad," said Nathan, "if you could forgive him, I think we can too. After all, that's what family is, forgiving and starting over." 4 years after their reunion in Long Beach City Park, the Patterson family gathered to celebrate William's 82nd birthday. Everyone was there: Nathan with his wife and children, Patricia with her family, Michael with his family, and Richard with Lucy and their kids. The house was filled with laughter, conversation, and children running around the garden. William, seated at the head of the table, watched the scene with a heart full of gratitude. "Grandpa," said Amanda, Richard's daughter, "can you tell me again the story of when you taught me how to make paper airplanes?" "Of course, my dear. But this time, how about we teach your cousin Peter too?" William got up from the table and fetched some sheets of paper. With patience and care, he taught his grandchildren how to make the planes, just as he had taught Nathan decades before. "The secret is in the folds of the wings," he explained, his hands still skilled despite his age. "It has to be like this, see?" The children watched in fascination, trying to mimic their grandfather's movements. When the planes were ready, they all went outside to test them. "Mine flew the farthest," shouted Peter, chasing after his plane. "Mine made a cool turn," Amanda replied. William laughed, watching the children's joy. It was exactly how he remembered playing with Nathan when he was little. Richard approached his father. "Dad, thank you for giving my kids the chance to know their grandpa." "Richard, they're my grandchildren. They had the right to know me, just as I had the right to know them." "I know, and I also know I'll never make up for the years I stole from all of us." William placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "Richard, stop punishing yourself. What's done is done. What matters is what we do from here on out." "How are you so wise, Dad?" "Wisdom comes with age, son, and with suffering. I've learned that holding on to resentment only hurts us. It's better to forgive and move forward." That night, after everyone had left, William sat on the porch with Nathan, watching the stars. "Grandpa, are you happy?" "Very happy, my grandson. Happier than I ever thought possible at 82. "What changed?" William thought for a moment. "Everything. 5 years ago, I was a lost, confused, abandoned man. Today, I have a family who loves me, a purpose in life, and the health to enjoy each day." "And you don't miss anything?" "I miss Elizabeth. I miss the 15 years I lost. But I've learned that life isn't about what we've lost. It's about what we do with what we have." Nathan held his grandfather's hand. "Grandpa, you didn't just save yourself. You saved our whole family. You showed us it's possible to start over, to forgive, to build something new." "I didn't do it alone, Nathan. You all helped me. Catherine helped me. Even Dr. Marina helped me. No one saves themselves alone." "And now? What are your plans?" William smiled. "Finish my second book. Keep giving talks. Enjoy every moment with my grandchildren. And who knows?" He paused. "Maybe find a companion to share these golden years with." "Really?" Nathan perked up. "Why not?" Your grandmother always said I wasn't meant to be alone, and she was right. They both laughed, enjoying the peace of the evening. 6 months later, William was giving a talk in Los Angeles when he met Elizabeth Thompson, a 75-year-old widow who had lost her husband the year before. She was in the audience listening intently to his story. "Mr. Patterson," she approached him after the talk, "your story moved me deeply. I lost my husband recently, and sometimes I feel lost, unsure how to rebuild my life." "Mrs. Elizabeth, I'm so sorry for your loss. Losing a life partner is one of the hardest pains to bear. How did you find the strength to start over after everything you've been through?" "One day at a time, and with the help of special people who came into my life." They talked for an hour after the talk. Elizabeth shared about her 50 years of marriage, her children who lived far away, and the loneliness she felt. "Mrs. Elizabeth, may I extend an invitation?" "Of course. I'm organizing a support group for people our age who are rebuilding their lives. Would you like to join?" "I'd love to." The support group met every Thursday at William's house. There were 8 of them, widowers, widows, some who had reconciled with family, others learning to live alone. Elizabeth became a constant presence, not just in the group but in William's life. They started taking walks together, going to the movies, dining at restaurants. Slowly, a deep friendship blossomed into something more. "William," she said one day as they walked through Long Beach City Park, where it had all begun, "don't you think we're too old for romance?" "Elizabeth, love has no age. If it makes us happy, why not?" "But what about your family? What will they think?" "My family wants me to be happy, and you make me happy." A year after they met, William proposed to Elizabeth. The proposal was simple, romantic, in the same park where Nathan had found him years earlier. "Elizabeth, I don't have the energy of a young man, nor the promise of many years ahead, but I have love to give and a sincere desire to share whatever time I have left with you. William, I accept. I want to share my golden years with someone special too." The wedding was a small, intimate ceremony at the church, where William had married his first Elizabeth 50 years before. The whole family was there, including Richard, who moved everyone with his speech. "Dad, seeing you find love again at 83 teaches me it's never too late to start over. You're an example of courage and determination for all of us." William and Elizabeth moved into a new, smaller but cozy home. They blended their routines, their friends, their families. It was a late beginning, but a genuine one. "William," Elizabeth said one morning as they had coffee on the porch, "do you think your first wife would approve of our marriage?" "I'm sure she would. Elizabeth always wanted my happiness above all else, and you make me very happy. Sometimes it feels strange sharing her name." "Don't let it. To me, you're both gifts life gave me at different times. One when I was young, the other when I learned to cherish each day." William's new routine included caring for Elizabeth, who had diabetes and needed some special attention. He did it gladly, remembering how Linda had manipulated him with care, and now he could care for someone out of genuine love. "Elizabeth, time for your medicine," he'd say gently every morning. "Thank you for taking care of me, William. Sometimes I feel I don't deserve such devotion." "Of course you do. Caring for those we love is a privilege, not a burden." 2 years after the wedding, William received a call that would once again change his perspective on forgiveness and family. It was Linda calling from prison. "William, I know I have no right to call you, but I need to talk." William hesitated but decided to listen. "What do you want, Linda?" "I want to ask for your forgiveness, not because I deserve it, but because I need to try to make peace with myself before I go." "Go? Are you being released?" "No, William, I'm sick cancer. The doctors say I only have a few months." William felt a pang in his chest. As much as Linda had done terrible things, she had been part of his life for 15 years. "Linda, I'm sorry to hear that. William, all these years in prison I've thought a lot about what I did, about how I stole your life, your dignity, your right to choose." "Go on." "I want you to know that these last years in prison have made me understand the magnitude of my crime, not just against you, but against your entire family." "Linda, why are you telling me this?" because I need you to know that, despite everything, I've learned to truly respect you. I've watched you rebuild your life, seen your talks on TV, read your book. You've become an admirable person." William was silent for a moment. "Linda, I forgave you a long time ago. Holding on to bitterness only hurt me." "Thank you, William. That means so much to me." "Linda, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you truly regret what you did, or do you only regret it because you got caught?" Linda took a while to answer. "At first, I only regretted it because I got caught. But over time, especially seeing how you handled everything, I learned to genuinely regret it. You didn't deserve what I did." "Linda, do you have family? Someone who can take care of you in these last months?" "I have my sister, but she lives far away, and I don't have money for private treatment." William surprised himself with his next question. "Would you like me to visit you?" "William, you'd do that?" "I think so. Not to forget what you did, but to close this chapter of my life with dignity." A week later, William visited Linda in the prison infirmary. She was visibly weakened, thin, with graying hair and tired eyes. "William, thank you for coming. How are you feeling?" "Physically, awful. Emotionally, relieved. Relieved to be able to talk to you in person. Linda, I want you to know one thing. I forgive you completely. I hold no bitterness, and I don't wish suffering on you. How can you be so kind after everything I did? Because I've learned that forgiveness frees the one who forgives, not just the one who's forgiven, and because carrying hatred would poison the good years I have left." Linda began to cry. "William, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When I'm gone, could you say a prayer for me? I'm not religious, but I think a prayer from you would mean a lot." "Of course, Linda. And if you'd like, I can arrange for a priest to come talk to you." "I'd really like that." William held Linda's hand, a scene no one could have imagined years ago. "Linda, your last months don't have to be only about regret. They can be about finding peace." "How?" "Accept the forgiveness I'm offering. Forgive yourself. And use the time you have to make peace with God, if that makes sense to you." Linda died 2 months later, at peace, after reconciling with her sister and her faith. William attended the funeral, surprising many who knew the story. "Grandpa, why did you go to her funeral?" asked Nathan. "Because she was part of my story, Nathan. A painful part, but a part nonetheless. Going to the funeral was my way of closing that chapter for good." "And how do you feel?" "Complete. Finally complete." At 85 years old, William was giving his last public speech. His health no longer allowed for long trips, but he wanted to speak one more time about forgiveness, family, and new beginnings. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said from the stage, "when I was 78, I thought my life was over. I was lost, abandoned, without hope." The audience listened in respectful silence. "But I learned that as long as there's life, there's a chance to start again. I learned that family isn't just blood, it's a choice. I learned that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's freedom. I learned that at 85 I can still love, I can still be useful, I can still make a difference in people's lives." He paused, looking at his family in the front row. Elizabeth, Nathan, Patricia, Michael, Richard, all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren. "If you take just one message from here today, let it be this. It's never too late to start over. It's never too late to forgive. It's never too late to be happy." The audience rose in an emotional standing ovation. William waved, knowing he was saying goodbye to the stage, but not to life. In the following months, William devoted himself entirely to his family. He finished his second book, A Guide on Rebuilding Family Relationships. He created a permanent fund to assist abandoned seniors, and he cherished every moment with Elizabeth and the grandchildren. "Elizabeth," he said one morning while watering the garden plants, "do you regret marrying me?" "How can you ask that?" "Because you could have had a peaceful old age without the complications of my past." Elizabeth stopped what she was doing and kissed his forehead. "William, marrying you was the best decision I made in 77 years of life. You taught me that love has no age, and that every day is a chance to be happy, even with all my grumpy old man habits, especially because of them. They remind me you're human, not a saint." William laughed, hugging his wife. "Elizabeth, if I go first, let's not talk about that. We need to. If I go first, I want you to be happy, to find other people to love, to not close yourself off from life. And if I go first, then I'll do the same. Let's honor each other's memory by being happy, not by being lonely." On a sunny Sunday morning, William woke earlier than usual. He watched Elizabeth sleeping beside him and smiled. He got up slowly so as not to wake her and went to the kitchen to make coffee. While waiting for it to brew, he stepped onto the porch and admired the garden they had created together. The flowers were beautiful, the birds were singing, the sun shone softly. "Thank you," he murmured, looking up at the sky. "Thank you for giving me a second chance at happiness." Elizabeth appeared on the porch, still in her robe. "Who are you talking to?" "To life, thanking it for everything I've received these past years." "And what else are you thankful for?" William hugged her, gazing at the vibrant garden. "For finding a family who loves me, for learning that forgiveness sets you free, for discovering that at 85 I can still dream, and for finding you, who made my last years the happiest of my life." "William, you know you love me very much when you talk like this early in the morning," Elizabeth laughed. "It's just that in the early morning, life looks clearer, and I see clearly that I've been blessed." At that moment, the phone rang. It was Nathan. "Grandpa, good morning. Everything okay there?" "Everything's great, my boy. How are the kids?" "Good. Grandpa, I wanted to tell you, Amanda wrote an essay at school about you. Want me to read it over the phone?" "Of course." Nathan began to read. "My great-grandfather William is the bravest man I know. He went through many hardships in life, but never gave up. He taught our family that forgiving is more important than revenge, and that family is whoever truly loves us. When I grow up, I want to be strong like him." William Patterson was moved by his great-granddaughter's words. "Nathan, tell Amanda her great-grandfather is very proud of her." "I will, Grandpa. Oh, we're all planning to come over for lunch next Sunday. Is that okay?" "Of course. Elizabeth and I would love to have everyone here." After hanging up, William sat on the porch with Elizabeth to have coffee. "You know, Elizabeth, when I think about my life, I see 3 distinct phases." "Which ones?" "The first from 20 to 63, when I built my company, raised my children, and was married to my first Elizabeth. It was a phase of building." "And the second?" "From 63 to 78, when everything fell apart. The confusion, the betrayal by my children, the 15 lost years. It was a phase of destruction." "And the third?" "From 78 until now, the phase of rebuilding, when I learned it's never too late to start over." Elizabeth held her husband's hand. "And which was the best phase?" "This last one, because in this phase, I learned what truly matters in life." "And what matters?" "Family, love, forgiveness, dignity, and the ability to find beauty in every day, no matter how simple." That Sunday, the house was filled with family for lunch. 3 generations gathered around the table, talking, laughing, making memories. William, seated at the head of the table, watched the scene with endless gratitude. Richard played with the grandchildren, Patricia helped Elizabeth in the kitchen, Michael told funny stories, and Nathan organized a game in the yard. "Grandpa," said Peter, Michael's son, "can you teach us how to make more paper airplanes after lunch?" "Of course, my boy. We'll have a contest to see whose flies the farthest." "And can you tell us again how you met Grandma Elizabeth?" "I can. But this time you help me tell it, okay?" The children eagerly agreed. After lunch, everyone gathered in the living room. William, with Elizabeth beside him and surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, began to tell his story of late love. "Once upon a time, there was an 83-year-old man who thought he'd already lived everything there was to live," he began. "Then he met a very special lady," Amanda chimed in. "And they fell in love even though they were old," Peter added. "And they got married and lived happily ever after." Little Sophie, his 3-year-old great-granddaughter, finished. "Exactly like that," William said, moved. They lived happily ever after. When the family left in the late afternoon, William and Elizabeth sat on the porch to watch the sunset. "William, are you happy with the life we've built together?" "Elizabeth, I'm more than happy. I'm whole. Even with all the problems, all the hardships we've faced, especially because of them. The hardships taught us to cherish the good moments." William took Elizabeth's hand and kissed it gently. "Elizabeth, I want to make you a promise." "What is it?" "I promise that as long as God gives me life and health, I'll wake up every day grateful to have you by my side." "And I promise the same." They sat in silence, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky orange and pink. "William," Elizabeth said softly, "thank you for teaching me that love has no age. Thank you for teaching me that happiness can begin at any moment in life." As the sun disappeared, William reflected on his journey, from the darkest moments of betrayal and abandonment to the light of rebuilding and late love. Every scar had turned into wisdom, every tear into gratitude. "Elizabeth," he whispered, "I think I finally understand the purpose of everything I went through." "What was it?" "To learn that life always offers second chances to those brave enough to take them, and to teach others that it's never too late to start again." That night, William slept deeply, dreaming of little paper airplanes flying through a garden full of flowers, while an entire family laughed and played under the golden afternoon sun. He had finally found his true home, not a physical place, but the hearts of the people who truly loved him. And he knew with the certainty that only comes with age and wisdom, that every tear, every hardship, every moment of pain had been worth it, because all of it had led him here, to this peace, to this simple and genuine happiness. William Paterson, at 85 years old, had learned life's most important lesson, that true love always finds its way back home. End of story. Now we want to know your thoughts on this moving tale of new beginnings and forgiveness. William managed to turn years of suffering into wisdom and love. Do you believe it's possible to forgive such deep family betrayals? Share your reflections on family, forgiveness, and second chances in the comments. Leave a like if this story touched your heart, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove it's never too late to be happy.